All right, so Saturday, January 16th, 2016, second Q&A session of the year. So here we go. So first thing, quick shout out to Future Sailor Deremer. He is shipping out next week, and I know Future Sailor Deremer has been a part of this channel for a very long time, part of this community for a very long time, and I am very happy to see you go, and I also thank you for your future service. So first question comes from Magtech Blue, and he actually asks two questions. The first thing is, what do you learn in A school? Now, what you're going to learn in A school is going to differ from your rate and the duration of A school. So for example, I'm an LS, logistics specialist. So my schooling was 2 months. So when you are in school for a very short period of time, there's not a lot of skills that you can develop. For me, what it was basically is they just cram bunch of information in a very short period of time, and then they send you up to the fleet with that knowledge. Whereas if your school is very, very long, like, sometimes 9 months, now you get to do more of hands-on training to be able to do your job once you get to the fleet. Because when you, like for me as an LS, when you get to the fleet, you learn as you go. But when you have been in school for a very long time, now you have to be able to perform your job. You have those skills to, for example, fix microwaves or fix TVs or fix vending machines or whatever. You have that skill at the same time. You have the knowledge from very long duration of school at the same time from doing a lot of hands-on experience. So Magtech Blue actually asks, second question is, if you finish boot camp and you're in E1, from E1 to E2 to E2 to E3, what is the process? Do you take a test or anything like that? It is more of just, you do your time. You do the 9 months, and then, next month you just get paid for the next pay grade. So there's no special test that you take from what I am told and what I am aware of. So next question comes from Go Packers, and he asks for the Navy Nuke program. Do I know anything about it? I don't really know anything about it. I've only just talked to some nukes and just heard some stories from nukes. And some of the things that I can share with you is that they are a very distinct people. Like a lot of people in the Navy make good jokes, like good fun of the nukes for what they do. Because they are very, very distinct people. Like, from some of the stuff that they say, some of the stuff they do, like if someone was coming, they might say, oh, he looks like a nuke or whatever like that. At the same time, I've heard of some people, they do the nuke program. So, they go to boot camp for 2 months, and then they go to nuke school for 9 months or whatever, and then they get promoted to E4, petty officer 3rd class. And I've heard, I don't know if the process is still applicable today, but I've heard that people just drop out of nuke school because they have further schooling afterwards, and then they just re-rate into a different rate. So like you skipped like a long period of time, and you're just instantly E4 after 11 months. So I've heard some people be able to do that. At the same time, it is very, very difficult. One of the examples that I can give you is a boot camp buddy of mine who is a nuke. I saw one of the Facebook posts of his, and he posted it took him 4 hours to solve 3 problems in nuke school, in A school. So it just goes to show you how difficult it is. And also, Go Packers asks, what is the rules for firearms in A school and in the fleet? The only thing I know in regards to firearms is you are able to have a concealed carry when you are wearing a civilian wear. But when you are in uniform, you are not allowed to. Now, as far as what's the rules for having it in the fleet and in A school, I would definitely check with the command. So for an A school command, they might say, all right, no one is allowed to have firearms within the base. Whereas maybe in the fleet, I don't really know. I'm going to, my best guess is it's going to differ from command to command. Okay. So next question comes from Aleks. And he asks, what is the difference between Marines basic training and Navy basic training? Now, I don't know other than like, I've seen how Marines train. I don't really know exactly like, fundamental, like knowledge wise what they train on. I'm sure, they can like take a gun apart in like 10 seconds and put it back together or whatever. But as far as the physical part goes, Marines do a much more physically demanding basic training. And overall, just Marine-wise, they are much more physically demanding than the Navy. And that is one of the biggest difference that I can see. In my opinion, how the Navy trains in terms of physical-wise, it is not that high. The standard is not that high, in my opinion. Whereas in the Marines, the standard is very, very high. Okay, so next question comes from future sailor Alvarez in terms of, and he says, do I know anything about GM gunner mates? I just know I only have like one or two GM buddies. From what I am told, I didn't really go into too detail from what I know, but I just know they work on gun mounts and like small firearms and maintenance on like certain weapon systems and stuff like that. Yeah, that's kind of it. So next question comes from future sailor Edmondson, and he asks, does submarine rates, like submarine, if you're a submariner, does it require more training? Yes. So for example, LS's, there was a buddy of mine, after he finished LS school, so he was an LS logistics specialist for submarines. So after he finished LS school, he went to a sub school. So he needs to know a lot more about submarines because that's the environment that he's going to operate and work in. So he's going to be more trained in that field. So it does require much more schooling, and it requires you to sign up for a longer period of contract in contract terms. And also, next question comes from future sailor Avalos, and he asks, what are aviation squadrons? So aviation squadrons, to my knowledge, are aircrafts and their aircraft crew. So there's an aircraft and their crew. So I'm not too sure on the exact details, but I know as far as LS wise, logistics specialized, like supply wise, LSs can be in an aviation squadron because obviously if a part breaks or if the aircraft needs some kind of part, it goes through the LSs. So the crew could be consisted of a couple of LSs to order parts, couple of engineers or whatever to fix and repair wires, or different type of people doing different type of works for a certain type of aircraft. And that is a aviation squadron, just in like a basic thing. I'm not too familiar with that. All right, so next question comes from KALEO Baker, and the question is officer training different? Yes. So for me, let's say I wanted to be an officer. I would submit my officer package, and if it is accepted, I would go to officer candidate school, and then it's basically like boot camp for officers, and then I do that for a period of time and then come back. And so next question comes from McMillion, and he asks for BAS, BAH, and separation pay. So for separation pay, you need to be on a deployment. If you're married and you're on a deployment, then you get separation pay. As far as BAS, when you are in A school and C school, you are just going to eat out of the galley, because for the most part, the A school and C school is going to be within a base, and the base is going to have a galley that is operational, that is going to be able to provide food. Now, as far as BAH, I know you need to have a dependent. That's the only thing I know. You need to have a dependent. So let me just quit this video real quick. Alright, I needed to make 2 different videos, 10 minutes each, because that's easier for me to upload. But anyway, going back into it, BAH, I know, you need to have a dependent, but I know there are people who have BAH that are like single, that don't have any dependents or married, anything like that, which is approved by the command. So I would advise you to check with your recruiter and make sure that you fill in the proper paperwork required for you to have BAH. Okay. So next question comes from Future Sailor Busse, and the question is two questions. How long does it take to strike a rate when you are in undesignated rate, like undes, pack seaman? I've talked to several pack seamans, and from what I can see, for the most part, on average, it's going to take a 1.5 to 2 years. So you're going to have a 4-year contract. So that's basically, just look at, the first half of your contract is going to be spent trying to get a rate. And what is the process like? I'm not too sure exactly the process, but what I can tell you about the transition is the fact that, for example, there are a good amount of people who came into LSs that were undes. And it is, in a way, difficult to adjust, because LSs, when you first come in with the rate LS, you go to A school, right? So you are trained more. But for the undes people, they don't really have the opportunity to go to A school. So they come in and they can't really keep up. I mean, it's easy to keep up. It's easy to be up to pace, because you can, the resources are available to you to be able to study up on LSs. But like when someone comes in as an undes, they have to catch up at the same time, do a full workload what they do on a normal day. So it is a much more added on pressure. And if you want to be ranked up and promoted, now you have to work twice as hard, because number one, you have to stand out in your job, and number two, you have to be academically on point. Whereas someone who already went to A school have a basic understanding, and generally what everything is, right? So next question comes from Salty Stone, and asks 3 questions. And the first one is regulation on personal items. Like I said before, make sure you check with the command. So if it's anything like something that can harm someone, check with your command. If it's like an electronics, for the most part, it's going to be okay. Okay. And next question is warts. Do having warts deny you in MEPS? One of the things that I did notice when I was in boot camp was one of my fellow shipmates did have a wart on, I think, one of his right hand somewhere. So just from looking at that, I don't know exactly. I didn't really ask him about it, because it's like an uncomfortable subject for him. But I would say talk with your recruiter. I'm sure it's not going to be a problem, as long as if they ask for proper paperwork, you can fill out the proper paperwork. Or at MEPS, I'm sure it's not like an uncommon thing. So that is, in my opinion, going to be an easy process, and you shouldn't really worry about it. So next thing is, in boot camp, did I ever regret the decision, like to join and be in boot camp, be in the Navy, all that kind of stuff? I didn't really regret it. I just remember thinking about, what is like the opportunity cost? Like, what did I miss? The fact that I'm here, what could I have been doing out there in the civilian world? But I've never really thought about regretting the decision or anything like that. Even till today, I don't really regret the decision, because it has made me a much better person, because that I joined, because that I'm out of the environment that I was in when I was a civilian, and I was able to see the different types of opportunities and be able to see the environment that I was in, and realize that I was headed towards a downward spiral, and I wouldn't have been able to catch that and see that if I wasn't out of that bubble. Okay, so the last question comes from Future Sailor Dobbins, and Future Sailor Dobbins asks 2 things. Number 1, sub rate. So why does it automatically boost to E4? So I'm not too sure if it does, but I think it does. I didn't really check, but I've heard that, you know, they just bump up to E4 because with harder rates, with like, you know, nukes and like submarines, you do a significant amount of work. It is a very, very difficult and challenging and very demanding in terms of hours and in terms of the work, overall work you do. It is very demanding, and from what I can see, the Navy tries its best to compensate the people who work these difficult jobs with a higher pay, with a much more faster promotion rate and all that kind of stuff. And also, would high school suspension hinder super security clearance? No, as long as you don't get trouble with the law. Like if you stab someone, like a federal crime, yes, that might be able to. But as far as like a high school suspension or whatever, the Navy doesn't really check. The Navy is not really the Navy doesn't think, all right, we have 1,000 people with a super security clearance. Let's look at every single one of their high school background and what they do from kindergarten to high school graduation. No, they're not really interested in that. As long as you don't make any, like, you know, outside federal crimes, it shouldn't really matter, and you shouldn't really worry about it. And also double check with your recruiter. All right, so that concludes the second Q&A session of 2016. Thank you for watching. If you have any more questions that you want me to make in a video response, leave it on Monday's video. If you have a quick questions that you want to ask, leave it on the comment section below. Thank you for watching. Press that like button, subscribe for more, and I hope you have a great Navy day.